What we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. This is Exposé coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, every Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook simultaneously. I'm your regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. Hello and welcome. This is Exposé with Tony Akinyemi, brought to you by TSF, the Shepherd's Flock International Church. We've been talking about your water and your health in the last couple of episodes. We're currently at the stage where we're dealing with water purification methods. Before I continue, let me do two things. One, let me sip my water. Wow. And number two, let me wear my blue light blocking glasses. Now we're good to go. Yes, during the last episode, we talked about different water purification methods. Boiling your water, filtering your water, chlorinating your water, which is a bad idea in my view. Then steam distillation, reverse osmosis, ozonization, and deionization. And we have looked at each one of them, their merits and demerits. The merits and demerits of boiling your water, the merits and demerits of filtering your water, the demerits of water chlorination. I can't see any merit. That's why I said demerit. And then steam distillation, the merits and demerits, and how to mitigate the demerits, okay? We've looked at the WaterWise 4000 as a water purification device, steam distillation device. We've looked at the Duet water revitalizer that remineralizes, alkalizes, and structures your water. We've looked at the reverse osmosis method of purifying your water and the different devices that you can actually invest in. You know, I use the word invest because it's very important for you to see whatever you do for your health as an investment. If you have that investment approach or mindset to it, you won't consider how much it costs. You go for it. The same way you plan to buy for your home a refrigerator, a deep freezer, a TV set, the same way you plan to buy a car for your mobility, that's the same way that we should also be planning and saving towards acquiring, some of these devices for our kitchen to improve our health, like a juice extractor, for example. I don't expect to get to anyone's kitchen who can afford it, who doesn't have a juice extractor in their kitchen. If you cannot afford it, it's a different ball game. I don't have any problem with that because fingers are not equal. But if it's something that you can afford, and yet you don't have it, then the problem is that you have not prioritized it. You do not consider it as important. But then today you need to start prioritizing anything that has to do with investing in your family's health. And so if you don't have a juice extractor in your kitchen and yet you can afford it, then I have a problem with that. If you don't have water purification system in your home and yet you can afford it, that is a big problem for me. So I need you to begin to reprioritize and bring these, items of equipment to the top of your priority list. So we introduced to you the BioPure Ultra Water Purification made by Kangen, and we said that it uses reverse osmosis, doesn't require electricity, it has a very compact design, easy to install, it filters your water and produces clean water for you to drink. And if you want to go a little higher, then you can go for the Kangen's Hydromi Water Purification Unit, which also adds hydrogen to your water. So it produces purified and hydrogen water that gives you antioxidant benefits, anti-inflammatory benefits, improves cell hydration, boosts your immunity, helps cell detoxification, even has anti-allergy benefits and anti-aging benefits. All right. And now, before we signed off last week, I mentioned the Kangen machine. So this is where I will be starting from today. Kangen water, which I was introduced to 17, 18 years ago in the United Kingdom. And now it's almost all over the whole world. Particularly in Nigeria, where I live, Kangen water is now everywhere. People buy it, install it, and some who cannot afford to buy the machine just go buy the water. The water is dispensed to them, and then they take it home, and then they keep replenishing from time to time. But for those who can afford it, it's highly recommended that you get your Kangen machine and install it in your home. All right. Now, so what is Kangen? In Japanese language, Kangen simply means, as I'm told, return to origin. In other words, return to the origin. Return to origin. That's the meaning of Kangen. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. That's what essentially Kangen water is all about. Let's go to the original form of water. So Kangen water, among many other properties, is also alkaline water produced by a company known as Energic. And the company's device is what is called the Kangen machine. So the Kangen machine is like an alkaline ionizer and water filtration system. It cleans your water, purifies your water, it ionizes the water, and also puts hydrogen into the water as well. Now, for more than 40 years, Kangen water has been used in Japan to help restore the body to its original alkaline state. Return to origin, Kangen. Now, these machines can transform ordinary tap water into healthy, fresh-tasting, alkaline drinking water. Okay? And I'm sure they will show you the image of one of the devices, Kangen machine. The one that they'll be showing you here is the level UK K8 machine. All right, they have different types. Now, Kangen water is purified. Kangen water is also alkaline. Kangen water is equally hydrogen-rich, just like the Hydromi that I discussed in the last episode. Thus, it has antioxidant properties and offers antioxidant benefits. Now, these antioxidant benefits help to neutralize free radicals. Let me not go too technical. Free radicals cause oxidative damage in the body. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals so that free radicals cannot wreak the havoc that they normally wreak in the body. Okay? Just take it like that. There are rogues trying to wreak havoc in the body, and antioxidants help to neutralize the rogues so they don't wreak that havoc. So when you take antioxidant fruits, antioxidant supplements, antioxidant food, or antioxidant water, like hydrogen water, like Kangen water, you are actually neutralizing free radicals. That is the antioxidant benefit you get. Now, Kangen water also has a negative ORP. ORP. What is ORP? ORP is oxidation reduction potential. Oxidation reduction potential. Now, a high ORP value in positive numbers actually indicates that a substance has a higher oxidizing potential. Higher oxidizing potential when the ORP is high and it is in positive numbers. Okay. Now, in generalized terms, for humans, a positive or high ORP is better for the outside of the body, not for the inside of the body. For cleaning, for sanitizing, for washing your fruits and your vegetables and cleaning your desktop. That is what any water that has a high positive ORP is to be used for, external to the human body. But when any water has a low ORP value in negative numbers, minus something, okay, whether minus 100 or minus 200 or minus something, when the ORP number is low and is in the negative range, minus, That indicates that a substance has a higher antioxidizing potential, and that is preferred for internal use, for oral consumption. So when you have water that has negative number for ORP, that's good for drinking. The one that has the higher number in the positive range, that's good for external use. Now that's about the Kangen machine and the Kangen water. Now I hope to be able to get one of those who promote the use of Kangen water from the USA and interview him. Okay, I know there are many also in Nigeria here who can render service. I believe that Energic, that's the company that produces Kangen machine, already has an office in Nigeria. They opened an office in Nigeria. So those in Nigeria who wants to get their Kangen machine, you can actually get them in Nigeria. You can contact me and I can facilitate and help you to get your machine. Okay? Now, let's move away from Kangen. And if you want the Hydromi as well, or the BioPure, whichever one of those devices, I can always help you to link you up with where to get them. All right. And for those who probably also want to look into the business side of things, maybe you want to add another stream of income to whatever it is you are doing to generate money, you can also buy these things and sell them to your circle of influence and generate income from there. Okay? You can register as a distributor and get it at distributor price and sell it at retail price. That's a business opportunity, but that's not my focus here. My focus is primarily to let you know what is available to you to be able to purify your water. And let me say one or two natural ways that people also use to purify their water. You may want to call it very primitive, but I call it natural rather than primitive. Natural and affordable, okay, methods of purifying and mineralizing your water, okay? Now, this person, Fleur Hubstein, in the year 2010, that's about 14 years ago from today, about 14 years ago, actually published an article in Natural News where she made some claims, which I'll be sharing with you, okay? She said the seeds of moringa tree, the seed, not the leaves now, the seeds of moringa tree can actually be used as an effective water clarifier and home water purification system. Isn't that interesting? Moringa. Now, the moringa tree is actually called the miracle tree because, you see, one of my mentors told me that, I think it was in the nation of Sierra Leone, if I'm not mistaken, he told me that they actually experimented with using moringa leaves as part of what they fed to people living with HIV. And they found that the moringa, as they used the leaves, you know, in various preparations to eat them and consume them, they found that the CD4 count of these people living with HIV was beginning to rise. Now, the CD4 count is the measure of the immune power of the individual. When people get infected with the HIV virus, their CD4 count begins to go down. In other words, their immunity begins to get compromised, gets weaker and weaker. The lower the CD4 count, the weaker the immune system. The higher the CD4 count, the stronger the immune system. So when they began to feed moringa to these people living with HIV, they found that the people's CD4 count was beginning to go up. In other words, it was boosting their immunity. That was what my mentor told me. One of my mentors in natural health told me. He himself is a PhD holder in agricultural science, and he was the one that told me that. And now another person is saying that the seeds of moringa can be used to purify your water at home. And she says, I'm talking about Fleur Hubstein, in the article that she wrote in the year 2010, she says, and I quote, apart from the problem of poor nutrition in many developing countries, there is the problem of disease due to polluted drinking water. The fact that the seeds of the moringa tree can purify and clarify water, thus eliminating most of its turbidity, and bacteria means that this tree truly is a miracle tree for many poor people. And you know, one of the biggest challenges in third world or developing countries is the availability of clean drinking water. And so the question is there an inexpensive, natural, home water DIY purification system that will give poor people access to clean drinking water? Of course, Flewer Hobson believes that the moringa tree holds the answer. Now, I've been talking about the Kangen machine, I've been talking about the Hydromi machine and the other BioPure water purification system. It's not everybody that can afford them because these things could be really pricey. The Kangen machine, for example, in Nigeria sells for millions of naira. Even the Hydromi sells for millions of naira. But the other one sells for less than 200,000 naira. Maybe a few people can afford that. The WaterWise water purifier also sells for a couple of hundreds of thousands of naira in Nigeria. But how many people can afford that? Now, for those who can afford them, I highly recommend them. But for those who may not be able to afford, you may want to take a chance on this postulation by Flewer Hobson by adding some moringa seeds. So how do you use moringa seeds as a home water purification system? Now, in order to make an effective water purification system, according to her, the moringa seeds are dried and then they are ground into powder. And you see, unlike other particles in the water, such as clay, bacteria, and other toxic materials which are negatively charged, the protein in the moringa seed powder is positively charged. And if you still remember your O-level physics, you remember that positive attracts negative, opposites attract, and similar poles repel each other, but opposite poles attract each other. So the toxic materials in the water are negatively charged, but the protein in the moringa seed, which you dry and grind into powder, is positively charged, thereby attracting the negatively charged particles like a magnet. Now, the flocks formed by this process called flocculation. It's called the flocculation process. The flocks formed by this process can then be easily removed by allowing the water to settle or by removing the flocks by filtration. And this process is said not only to clarify turbid water significantly, but also to remove up to 90 to 99% of bacteria contained in water. Wow, isn't that magnificent? Isn't that wonderful? That's a piece of good news as far as I'm concerned to people who can't afford the millions and the hundreds of thousands in naira to purchase those machines. Now, it will appear that there is overwhelming evidence to warrant giving the moringa tree the title miracle tree. Not only can the moringa, the leaves, provide highly nutritional food to people who need it the most, the poor, okay? But it can also clean their drinking water. And that is a wow for me as far as I'm concerned. The other day, somebody also suggested that when you have clarified and purified your water, maybe using the moringa seeds that you have dried and ground into powder, if you now want to mineralize the water, says you can also get some brown rice grain, maybe the ones you prepared yourself, not the ones that may be contaminated with arsenic or any other toxic metal, maybe grown locally, the one that you are sure of the kind of water used to irrigate the field so that it's not contaminated, no pesticide, no herbicide sprayed on it, organic, clean brown rice, that you can take a few grains of brown rice and put it inside your water, and that will mineralize the water. That's another natural, very affordable, easy to do type. Now, I'm not recommending it to you. I have never tried it for myself. Somebody just mentioned it, that these are things that villagers who don't have all the money can utilize. Okay, we're going to go on a short break here. When we come back, we'll be looking at different purification methods and the type of contaminants and pollutants that each one is able to remove from water and the things that they are unable to remove. So that can guide you in knowing which type to get. Oh, this type of purification method can remove toxic metals. It can destroy germs. This one cannot. So you know how to select. Sometimes some purification devices have a cascade of the different methods. Maybe first of all, like I told you about the water wise, it will first of all distill, and then it will filter using activated carbon charcoal. So that's a cascade. It cascades two different methods together. Stage 1 uses steam distillation. Stage 2, carbon filtration. Okay. Another one may do reverse osmosis, stage 1, and then it will do carbon filtration in stage 2. So they cascade them like that in series. And so what comes out from the end has gone through different purification method. Don't go away, I'll be back very shortly. Welcome back. This is still Exposé with Tony Akinyemi, brought to you by TSF, the Shepherd's Flock International Church. And I'm honored to be the lead pastor of the Shepherd's Flock International Church. And I happen to also be your host on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi, brought to you every Monday, 8 p.m. West African time, Nigerian time. And I encourage you and request of you to please share these episodes with your family and friends. It will benefit and bless them immensely, particularly this subject of water that we're talking about, your water and your health. Now, in the first half of today's episode, I mentioned two very interesting things, and that is the moringa seed and the grains of organic brown rice. Okay, now for the moringa tree, I see it growing almost everywhere in Nigeria. There's almost no part of Nigeria where the moringa tree cannot grow. It grows in the southwest, it grows in the southeast, it grows in the south-south, it grows in the middle belt, it grows in north-central, northeast, northwest, everywhere all over Nigeria. I see the moringa tree thriving, flourishing. And it's so easy to cultivate as a simple shrub, if I'm not mistaken. It grows, the leaves just keeps, coming out very fresh and green, and then before long it starts flowering and the seeds start coming. Now, the seeds can be dried, ground, and you can put it into water to clarify and purify and disinfect the water. It's a very natural, affordable, easy to do type of water purification. And then every impurity in the water will bind to the protein in the moringa seed and settle to the bottom. And then you can filter the clean water and discard the dredge at the bottom. And you have your water purified. Now, that's for those who cannot afford expensive gadgets. But those who can afford the Kangen machine or the Hydromi machine or the BioPure water purification system from Elken or the WaterWise water purification system, please go for it. By all means, go for it, if you can afford it. And you can believe God for it as well if you can afford it now, so that maybe in the next couple of months, you can also be able to afford it. All right, now let's look at the various purification methods that we have talked about and the kind of impurities that each method can eliminate from our water. Now, there are some keywords or abbreviations that we're going to be using, which I want to clarify up front before we go into those methods. So when you see ACF GRAN, that talks about activated carbon filter granular. When you see ACF SB/P, that's activated carbon filter solid block and pre-coat. When you see AAF, that means activated alumina filter. There are different kinds of filters and filtration methods or purification methods. When you see air, that talks about aeration. When you see anion, that talks about anion exchange. When you see cat, that talks about cation exchange softening. When you see disinf, that is disinfection. That uses either chlorination or ultraviolet light to disinfect. Okay? When you see distill, that talks about distillation. Those are abbreviations we are going to be using because the table will not be able to fit onto the screen. I want them to show you the table when we get there. That's why I'm explaining what the abbreviations you will see in the table means. So when you see RO, that refers to reverse osmosis. And when you see a black thick dot, that talks about carbon filters, usually part of these various purification systems that helps to remove contaminants from the body. And when you see the hashtag sign, that talks about bacteria that are several magnitude larger than the reverse osmosis pore size of like 0.0005 microns. Okay, so let's look at the effectiveness of the different water purification methods. And I want my team to please put on the screen the table that I have developed. Effectiveness of water treatment methods. I actually sourced this table, I sourced it from a book that I read by Dr. Michael Jacobson. Dr. Michael D. Jacobson actually is the one who developed this table. I just lifted the table from that book. Now, the title of the book is The Word on Health. W-O-R-D, the Word. What the Word of God says on health. The Word on Health. This table that they're going to show you now is on page 99 of that book by Dr. Michael D. Jacobson. Now, he helps to look at the effectiveness of water treatment methods. That when you use activated carbon filtration in granules, or you use aeration, or you use anion filtration or cation filtration, or a different kind of disinfection or distillation or reverse osmosis, what kind of contaminants do these methods remove from our water? Now, if you look at the table, you will see that, for example, if you are doing the activated carbon filtration using granules of activated carbon to filter your water, that can remove atrazine, it can remove benzene, it can remove mercury, it can remove trichloroethylene, it can remove trihalomethanes, it can remove radon. But activated carbon filtration cannot remove arsenic from your water. Neither can it remove asbestos from your water. It cannot remove fluoride from your water. That filtration method cannot remove lead from your water. It cannot remove nitrates from your water. It cannot remove radium or bacteria or any of such from your water. So you see the limitation. If you are using the activated carbon filtration method, okay, the one that uses a solid block and pre-coat in the activated carbon filtration, that can remove asbestos, as well as atrazine, as well as benzene. It can remove lead, it can remove mercury, it can remove trichloroethylene, it can remove trihalomethanes, it can remove cryptosporidium also from your water. So you see that one does better than the granulated activated carbon filtration. Okay, now if you are using the activated alumina filter, AAF, that can only remove only two contaminants from your water. It can remove arsenic and can remove fluoride, that's all. So the type of filtration method to filter your water that you use determines what it can remove. If you are using aeration method, that can remove, I think, benzene, that can remove trichloroethylene, that can remove trihalomethanes, that can remove radon from your water. If you are using the anion exchange method to purify your water, that will remove arsenic, that will remove mercury and nitrate, and that's all. You can't remove any other thing. If you are using the cation method, that will remove lead or mercury. It can remove No, I think it's lead. You can remove lead from the table, as you can see, and you can remove radium. If you are doing the disinfection method, either you are using chlorination or ultraviolet light to disinfect, that can only kill microorganisms and also remove bacteria, all kinds of, remove all the bacteria from your system, but it doesn't remove any of the other contaminants from your system. Now, when you do water distillation, steam distillation method, it can remove all of these things except atrazine, benzene, and radon. That's the only one that water distillation cannot remove. But when you now cascade steam distillation with activated carbon filtration, okay, you also use carbon filters. After distilling, you also use carbon filters. Then the carbon filtration will remove what the distillation couldn't remove, the atrazine, the benzene, and it will also remove the radon. Now, usually these are volatile gases that they will go up into the distillation chamber after the water becomes vapor, and they want to escape as vapor, as gases along with the vapor, and then the activated carbon filtration system will now eliminate them. So by the time you do that, you find out that all of these are eliminated in your water distillation system when you use steam distillation method. Arsenic is removed. That is, if you put the two together, you distill and then you do carbon filtration. Then the two cascaded together, we get rid of arsenic, we get rid of asbestos, we get rid of atrazine, benzene, fluoride, lead, mercury, nitrate, trichloroethylene, trihalomethanes, radium, radon, all bacteria, and cryptosporidium. All of these are taken out from your water. You see, that's why the water that comes from your water-wise distiller is 99.99% pure. Now, when you use the reverse osmosis method to purify your water, and you also cascade it with the carbon filters. In other words, after using the reverse osmosis 4 or 5 stage filtration system to filter the water, to remove as much as it can remove, you now take it through another stage of activated carbon filtration system. So when you cascade the two like that, okay, then that cascade is going to remove a number of, all of these things from your system. It's going to remove also arsenic, asbestos, atrazine, benzene, fluoride, lead, mercury, nitrate, trichloroethylene, radon, radium, and what have you. So you can see from this table, I hope the table is still being projected on the screen. When you look at the table, you see that the last two methods are the distillation method and the reverse osmosis method on the right side of the table. And you can see all the boxes that are ticked in green. Now, the one that is in black dot, that is what the distillation method could not remove and what reverse osmosis could not remove, but the activated carbon filtration system that is cascaded with it will remove it. So it escapes the sword of distillation and reverse osmosis, but it will not escape the sword of carbon filtration. So the cascade of the two, that's why personally, I highly recommend the water-wise filtration system, the water distillation system, as well as the Hydromi and the Elken BioPure water purification systems, because these use either distillation method for the water-wise or the reverse osmosis for the Elken products. Okay, these are wonderful water purification methods. Now, when we come back in the next episode, God willing, next week, I'll be talking about water containers and water conduits. I spoke about that a little bit when I was talking about toxic metals and what have you. How plastic, how lead, and many other toxic items get into our water from the container that we put them into, and from the pipes that we use to conduct them from one point to another. So it's important for us to look at water containers and conduits. And I remember, whether it was in late 2022 or early 2023, I did a series where I spoke about 7 different types of plastic and the properties and characteristics of each one of them, and the ones that are suitable for storing items and the ones that are not safe and good for storing your water or your drink or whatever. So we'll look at that. We'll look at the different types. We'll look at PET, HDPE, PVC, LDPE, PPPS, and what have you. We'll look at what each one of them stands for and which one you can use and which one no. We also look at the harmful side effects and the diseases that these contaminating plastics can cause in the body, and how do you minimize your exposure, particularly to one of them that is called BPA, bisphenol A. How do you minimize your exposure to all of these things? This is what will be our episode next week, God willing. And thereafter, I hope I succeed. I'll be able to invite one person to come and talk about reverse osmosis water purification devices, and another one to come and talk about the Kangen machine. These are 2 wonderful machines that I recommend highly for those who can afford it, even though they cost an arm and a leg by Nigerian standard. Okay, those who live abroad, that may not be a big deal. They might be able to afford it readily, but in Nigeria and the Nigerian economy, that is a big deal. But there are those who can afford it all the same. And my suggestion is that if you can afford it, then don't hesitate. Look at it as an investment in your family's health, and you will not regret it. Thank you once again for spending your time with me this beautiful Monday evening on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget that what we need is not more medication, but more education. For the best prescription is knowledge. I love you and I thank you and I pray for you. May you have a beautiful week, a testimony-filled week, a very productive week, and a week filled with pleasant surprises. In Jesus' name, amen. Bye.